The night sky above the alien city was filled with lights. Ships moving in and out like insects around a flame, and down below in the heart of the city, there was a place that every traveler whispered about. A place known as the Market of Chains. The market was not like any normal market. Here no one came to buy food or tools or simple goods. Here people came to buy lives. Cages lined the street, chains rattled, and strange beings from many worlds sat in silence or cried out for freedom. The air smelled of smoke and iron. Merchants shouted prices, and travelers laughed as if buying another living being was nothing more than buying fruit. But tonight, among the many cages and the many cries, there was something different. Something that made even the loud merchants lower their voices. At the center of the market stood a tall iron post, and beneath that post was a figure unlike any other. A woman, though clearly not human, chained with heavy silver shackles that glowed faintly with light. Above her head a crooked wooden sign swung in the wind, and the words carved into it were simple and cruel. "Take as you wish." The other captives looked at the ground, but she stood straight even with the weight of the chains, her eyes glowing like liquid silver, her skin pale like moonlight, and there was a strange feeling around her, as if the air itself bent slightly when she breathed. Travelers passed by, but none dared to touch the chains. Some whispered she was cursed. Others said she was bait for fools. One alien with 3 eyes hissed, "She is not for taking. She is for warning," and he hurried away. Yet still people stared, because her beauty was strange and her presence heavy, and it felt as if the chains were not just holding her body, but holding something far larger, something waiting. From the edge of the crowd came a human, a wanderer named Daniel, his clothes dusty, his boots old, and his eyes sharp with curiosity. He had seen many markets across the galaxy. He had seen cages before, but never had he seen a sign so bold and a prisoner so strange. Daniel slowed as he approached, and the crowd parted a little. For while many had looked at the chained woman, few had walked close. The chains hummed softly, like they knew a human had arrived. And Solara, the chained woman, lifted her silver eyes to him. For a long moment nothing moved. Merchants held their tongues, the crowd waited, and then, in a voice that was not loud but clear, the woman spoke. "You see me?" she whispered. "Will you free me?" The words should not have been possible, for no sound left her lips, yet Daniel heard them inside his head. Soft and urgent, he frowned, stepping closer. "What are you?" he muttered. But she only watched him with eyes that seemed to hold storms. A fat alien merchant barked from behind. "Do not touch her, human. Many tried, all failed. She is bound by more than chains. She is bound by fate." And he spat on the ground, laughing. Another shouted, "The sign says, 'Take as you wish, but beware.'" Many took. None returned, and the crowd murmured in fear. Daniel's heart beat harder, but his feet did not stop. Something inside him felt drawn, like invisible strings pulling him closer. The chains seemed colder, heavier, as if they waited for his hand. The woman leaned forward slightly, her eyes never leaving his, and again he felt the whisper, "Only you can break them." "Only you." Daniel reached out. His hand trembling, the crowd gasped. Some shouted warnings, others urged him to step back, but he did not stop. His fingers brushed the silver chain, and pain shot through him like fire. Yet he held on, his teeth clenched, and slowly he felt the metal warm beneath his touch. The chains trembled, the glowing light flickered, and then one of the shackles cracked with a sound like thunder. The crowd screamed, merchants stumbled backward, and a wave of fear rolled through the market. Daniel pulled again, and the second shackle broke apart, sparks flying into the air. The sign above swung wildly, the words "Take as you wish" creaking as if the wood itself feared what was happening. The woman's chains fell to the ground, vanishing into dust as if they had never been, and Solara stepped forward, free for the first time in centuries. She looked at Daniel with a gaze that was both thankful and dangerous. Her lips curved into a small, unreadable smile, and in his mind he heard her voice again. "Now it begins." The market of chains had fallen silent, the laughter gone, the noise gone. Only the beating of hearts and the sound of fear remained. For everyone knew something had just changed, something far greater than a simple market sale. And Daniel, the lone human traveler, stood at the center of it all, his hand still burning, his future forever tied to the woman he had just freed. The market of chains was still frozen in shock. The broken shackles of Solara had turned into dust, and the crowd stood in silence, their eyes wide with fear. For in all the years of the market's cruel history, no one had ever broken those chains, no one but this one human named Daniel. Solara, tall and pale like moonlight, stood free, her silver eyes watching him with a strange calm. Yet in that calm was a storm. She looked at Daniel as if she had been waiting for him. Not for days, not for years, but for lifetimes. The merchants began to shout again. Fear mixing with anger. Seize them, one bellowed. Do not let her escape, cried another. Guards armed with electrified staffs pushed through the crowd, their insect-like bodies moving fast, yet none dared come too close, for the dust of the broken chains still floated in the air, glowing faintly. Daniel's hand still burned from where he had touched the shackles. The pain deep yet not unbearable. More than pain, it felt like a mark, a reminder that something had passed from the chains into him. Something heavy, something unknown. He turned to Solara, his voice low. Who are you? What are you? But before she answered, the guards rushed forward. Their staffs sparking, Solara did not move. She only looked at him, and in his mind he heard the whisper again. Choose, Daniel, stand with me or walk away, but no. The choice will follow you forever. The guard struck, but Daniel reacted without thinking, his body moving with speed he never had before. His hand caught a staff in mid-swing, sparks shot across his arm, yet instead of falling he twisted and pulled. The guard shrieked, thrown to the ground. The crowd gasped, not at Solara, but at the human, at the way his strength seemed greater than before. As if the breaking of the chains had awakened something inside him, Solara finally moved, not with violence but with grace. She stepped forward, her eyes flashing silver, and the remaining guards stumbled back as if pushed by invisible hands. She spoke aloud this time, her voice soft yet sharp. Enough, your chains are broken. Your fear is useless. The guards froze, their alien faces trembling, and then one by one they backed away, dropping their weapons. The merchants cursed and shouted, but none dared step closer. Daniel stared at her, his heart racing. What did you just do? He whispered. Solara turned her gaze on him, her silver eyes bright. I asked them to remember fear and they obeyed, she said simply. But I did not make them. Fear is already inside them. I only opened the door. Daniel shook his head. Why me? Why could I break the chains when no one else could? Her smile was faint, almost sad. Because you are human, and humans are different. They believe when others only obey, they resist when others surrender, and they give when others only take. The chains were made to test your kind, and you chose to break them. Before Daniel could reply, alarms rang across the market. Red lights flashing, hunters gathering, heavy footsteps echoing, the whole bazaar waking up like a hive under attack. Solara looked up at the sky, her expression calm. They will come, not just guards, not just merchants, but hunters. Slavers, warlords, they will not allow me to walk free, not after centuries. Daniel felt the weight of her words. He looked at the narrow streets ahead, the guards regrouping, the crowd ready to turn violent, and deep inside he knew he had only two choices. He could leave her, walk away, slip into the night, pretend none of this ever happened. He would live, he would survive, and no one would chase him. Or he could take her hand, stand beside her, and step into danger greater than anything he had ever known. Solara reached out, her hand pale, her chains gone but the mark still glowing faintly on her wrists. She did not beg, she did not plead, she only offered, waiting to see what he would choose. Daniel's heart pounded, his mind screamed to run, but his hand moved on its own, reaching out, fingers closing around hers, and in that moment the world seemed to shift. The market roared, hunters surged forward, but Solara's eyes glowed bright, and with Daniel's touch, a wave of silver light burst outward, throwing the hunters back, shattering stalls and dimming the alarms. She whispered into his mind softer than before. You have chosen. The two of them ran, the crowd breaking apart, the guards too afraid to follow, and as they vanished into the twisting streets, whispers spread like fire. The human freed her, they said. The human chose, they said, and nothing will ever be the same. Daniel did not know where the path would lead. He did not know why his heart burned or why his hand still glowed faintly, but he knew this. He had made his choice and there was no turning back. Solara, walking beside him with calm steps, looked at him once more, and her words echoed inside him like a vow. Now the galaxy will remember you, Daniel, for the chains of one are the chains of all, and with that, their journey began, a journey that would shake the stars. The city burned with noise, alarms howled from every tower, red lights flashing across the skyline, as Daniel and Solara ran through narrow streets lit by neon and smoke. Behind them came the sound of hunters, armored feet pounding the ground, engines warming as ships rose from their docks. Daniel pulled Solara by the hand, his lungs burning. "Where are we going?" he shouted. But she did not answer with words. Instead, she pointed ahead, toward the upper levels where the skyport waited. The hunters were fast, their shadows long and sharp. Some leapt across rooftops, others fired nets that glowed with energy. One net nearly struck Daniel. He rolled aside, the ground cracking where it hit. Sparks flying. Solara turned, her silver eyes flashing. The net dissolved in the air before it could reach him. "Keep running," she said calmly. Though her face showed strain, Daniel felt his heart race. The city seemed alive against him. Doors slammed shut, merchants hid. Watchers whispered as the human and the freed alien ran past. Already stories spreading. "The human who broke the chains," they whispered. "The cursed woman walks again." They reached the edge of the skyport. A vast platform filled with ships of all sizes, but hunters were already waiting. Insect-like guards, scaled war beasts, and human mercenaries too, weapons raised, voices shouting. Daniel skidded to a stop, his chest heaving. "We're trapped," he muttered, but Solara stepped forward. Her chains gone, yet her presence heavy. The hunters hesitated, fear flickering in their eyes. She raised her hand, light shimmered, but then she lowered it, her voice low. "I will not kill them, not now. That is not my way." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then how do we get past?" Her eyes turned to the ships, sleek machines waiting to fly. She nodded to a smaller one near the edge, its lights flickering weakly, an old freighter that looked abandoned. "That one," she said. "It will fly if you believe it can." Hunters surged forward. Daniel didn't think. He grabbed her hand and ran again, weaving through the crowd of enemies. Blaster fire lit the air, bolts streaking past, explosions shaking the ground. One mercenary blocked their path, a scarred human with a plasma blade, his grin wide. "Going somewhere," he taunted, swinging down. Daniel raised his arm without knowing why. The blade struck him, sparks exploded, yet his arm held. The same burning power that had broken the chains now protecting him. Daniel shoved the mercenary back, shock in his own eyes. "What's happening to me?" he gasped. But Solara only said, "The chains marked you, and now you carry their echo." They reached the freighter. Daniel slamming his hand against the control pad. The door creaked open. Inside was dark, dust floating in the stale air. Hunters closed in, blasters aimed. But Daniel pulled Solara inside, sealing the hatch. He rushed to the pilot's seat, hands moving over controls he half understood. The ship groaned like an old beast waking from sleep. Come on," he muttered, pressing switches. Sparks bursting from the dashboard. Solara stood beside him, her hand brushing the console. Silver light passing from her skin into the ship. The engines roared. The freighter lifted from the platform, hunters scattering back as fire belched from its thrusters. The ship lurched into the night sky, alarms screaming louder, city defenses turning, cannons locking onto them, beams of light shot upward, striking the hull, shaking the cabin. Daniel gripped the controls, his teeth clenched. "I can't hold it." Solara placed her hand on his shoulder. "Calm in the storm. Trust yourself, Daniel. The chains broke because of you. This ship will fly because of you." He pushed forward. The freighter shot higher, weaving between laser fire, the skyport shrinking below, hunters launching in pursuit, sleek fighters cutting through the clouds. The chase began, engines screaming, stars above waiting like cold witnesses. Daniel twisted the ship. One fighter exploded against a tower. Another spun out in flames. But more closed in, their weapons pounding. "Faster!" Daniel growled, sweat on his face. But the freighter shook violently. Alarms blaring, one wing sparking. Solara closed her eyes, her silver glow spreading across the cabin. The damage slowed, the ship's broken parts holding together as if her will alone stitched them. But Daniel saw her body weaken, her shoulders trembling, her lips pale. "Stop," he said. "You're hurting yourself," but she shook her head. "I am only guiding. It is you who must fly." Daniel's hands gripped the controls tighter, something deep inside him answering. The same strange power that had cracked chains now flowed through his arms. Into the ship. The freighter surged forward with speed it should not have, leaving streaks of light across the stars. The hunters fell back, their ships too slow, their weapons fading in the distance until only silence and stars remained. Daniel slumped in the chair, breathing hard. "We made it," he whispered. Solara opened her eyes, her voice faint yet steady. "We are free for now, but the hunt will not stop. The galaxy has seen the chains broken, and every ruler, every warlord, every slaver will want us both. They will not forgive what you have done." Daniel turned to her, confusion and anger in his eyes. "Why me? Why did it have to be me? Her silver gaze met his, deep and endless. Because only a human could choose, she whispered. And you have chosen. The freighter drifted into the black sea of stars. Its engines humming, the chase for now ended. But the true journey only just begun. The freighter drifted through the endless dark. Stars scattered like cold fire across the black sea. Daniel sat in the pilot's seat, his hands still tight on the controls. Though the danger had passed, his heart still pounded. His skin still burned where he had touched the chains. Behind him, Solara stood silent, her silver eyes half closed. Her pale hands resting on the console as if she could still feel the energy flowing through the ship. Her breathing steady but faint, like someone who carried centuries of weight. Daniel turned in his seat, his voice sharp. You need to tell me the truth now. Who are you? What are you? And what did I just get myself into? Solara opened her eyes, their glow soft but deep. She studied him for a long moment before she spoke. I am Solara of the Elendari, the last of my kind who still breathes. Once we walked among the stars not as rulers but as keepers. We did not conquer. We did not enslave. We guarded balance, and for that, the galaxy feared us. Daniel frowned. Feared you for keeping balance. Her lips curved in a sad smile. Yes, because power fears those who refuse it. Warlords could not buy us, empires could not bend us, so they hunted us. One by one my people fell, until only I remained, captured, bound, chained beneath that cruel sign, left as a warning to others and as a test for humans. Daniel blinked. Confused. Humans, why us? Solara stepped closer, her silver eyes reflecting the dim light of the cabin. Because your kind is not like the others. You rise and fall faster than any race. You build and you break. You destroy and you heal. You are unpredictable. And in that unpredictability lies choice. Choice is what my people could not see. Choice is what the chains were forged to test. Daniel shook his head, his voice hard. That makes no sense. I'm just a wanderer. I don't lead anyone. I don't even belong anywhere. Why me? Solara tilted her head, studying him. Because you stopped. Because you looked, others saw only chains. Others saw only danger. But you saw me, and when the time came, you chose to act. That is what no empire can command. That is what no machine can copy. The power of a human choice. Her words hung in the cabin like weight. Daniel looked down at his hands, remembering the fire that surged through him when he touched the shackles, the way his strength had risen, the way he had blocked the mercenary's blade. So this power in me, it came from you, he asked. Solara shook her head slowly. No, not from me, from the chains. They were made with the essence of my people's enemies, locked to bind me forever, but when you touched them, they broke, and part of their power stayed in you. You carry an echo now, something both dangerous and rare. Daniel leaned back, his chest heavy. So I'm marked, he muttered. Yes, Solara whispered, and they will know. Every hunter in the galaxy will feel it. Every slaver will chase it, because you carry proof that the old order can break. You carry the spark of change. The cabin fell silent, the ship's engines humming softly. Daniel's thoughts tangled. He had wanted only a quiet life, drifting from world to world. No ties, no burdens, yet now his very blood carried a burden greater than empires. He glanced at her, her pale face calm, her silver eyes watching him without judgment. Why didn't you use your power to free yourself? He asked suddenly. Her gaze dropped. For the first time he saw something like shame. Because I could not. The chains were not only metal, they were choice itself. I could not break them. Only one who was free of them could. I waited centuries. I waited for a human who would not take as he wished, but give as he chose. Daniel swallowed hard, the truth heavy. So all those years, you waited for me? Solara shook her head gently. Not for you alone, for any human who would see. It could have been another. It could have been none, but it was you, Daniel. And now we are bound not by chains, but by what comes next. Before he could reply, the ship's sensors beeped, warning lights flashing. Daniel leaned forward, reading the screen. We've got a signal. Someone's following us. Solara's eyes narrowed. Of course, the hunters will not rest. We carry more than ourselves now. We carry the choice you made, and the galaxy will not forgive it easily. Daniel cursed under his breath. Turning the ship's course, the black sea of stars stretching endlessly before them, danger waiting at every point of light. Solara sat beside him, her voice quiet but steady. The chase will not end, Daniel. Not until the truth of humanity is proven. Not until the galaxy sees if mercy is stronger than fear. This is only the beginning. Daniel gripped the controls, his jaw set. Then I guess we find out together. And the freighter slid deeper into the void, carrying a human marked by chains and an alien who had waited centuries, their secrets heavy, their future uncertain, and the stars themselves holding their breath. The freighter drifted on the edge of a dying star system, the light of the sun weak and red, broken planets circling like scars of an old war. Daniel sat at the controls, eyes heavy, his body sore, but his mind sharper than ever. Solara sat beside him, silent, her silver eyes staring at the endless dark. For a moment there was peace. No alarms, no hunters, only the hum of the old ship. Daniel almost allowed himself to believe they were safe, but deep inside he knew. Nothing was ever that simple. The sensors beeped. A faint ping at first, then stronger. Daniel leaned forward, reading the screen. "A ship is following us," he muttered. Small, fast. Closing distance, Solara's eyes narrowed. "Hunters," she said softly, but Daniel shook his head. "No. The signal pattern is human." Solara turned to him, her face unreadable. "Human," she repeated. "Then perhaps your kind comes not as hunters, but as allies." Daniel wanted to believe that. But the longer he lived in the galaxy, the more he knew not every human could be trusted. Moments later, the ship appeared on the radar. Sleek and sharp, painted black with crimson edges, the symbol of a broken chain scratched across its hull. Daniel's chest tightened. "That's a mercenary mark," he whispered. "Human free hunters, they sell to anyone with credits. And they don't ask questions." The comms cracked alive, a voice filling the cabin, deep and mocking. Well, if it isn't the famous Daniel, breaker of chains, savior of the silver-eyed witch, your name spreads fast, human, and your price spreads faster." Daniel's fists tightened. "What do you want?" The voice laughed. "What do we want? Everything. The alien beside you. Her power, her secrets, and you too, boy. Alive if possible, dead if not. The warlords will pay in gold and blood for either." Solara did not move, her voice calm though her eyes burned. "They are of your kind, Daniel. This is your test." The words cut deeper than any blade. Daniel had faced alien hunters, insect guards, scaled war beasts, but facing his own kind was different. It was heavier, more painful, for betrayal always cuts deepest when it comes from family. The mercenary ship drew closer, 3 smaller craft launching from its sides, circling the freighter like vultures around prey, weapons charged, red lights flashing across the dark. Daniel cursed, pushing the controls. The freighter shook as it turned, but the mercenaries were faster. Firing warning shots across their hull, the old ship groaned, metal screeching. The comm's voice returned, sharp and cold. "Don't make this harder, Daniel. Open the hatch. Hand her over. You walk away rich, free, alive. You can disappear on some quiet moon. No one will follow you. This is your last chance." Daniel's chest ached. The words tempting. Freedom offered like honey. No more running, no more hunters, no more burning chains in his blood. He could end it here. He could let Solara go and save himself. He turned to look at her. Solara sat still, her silver eyes fixed on him. No begging, no pleading, only waiting. Waiting for his choice. Daniel's hand shook, his voice rough. "You said humans are different, that we have choice. Well, my choice is not to sell out the only person who believed in me." He slammed the comms off, pulling the freighter hard into a dive. Stars streaking past. The mercenary ships following like wolves, weapons firing, the cabin shaking with every blast. Solara's voice filled his mind. Calm but strong. "They will not stop, Daniel. They are your reflection. The other path your kind can take. Greed, fear, betrayal. If you fall, they win." Daniel gritted his teeth. "Then we don't fall," he growled, turning the ship through the wreckage of old battlefields. Twisted metal and shattered moons drifting like bones. The mercenaries fired again, one shot tearing through the freighter's wing. Alarms screaming, Daniel fought the controls. Sparks flying across the cabin, Solara rose, placing her hands on the console, silver light spreading, the ship's broken parts holding together for a moment longer. But her body trembled, each breath heavier than the last. Daniel shouted, "Stop, you're killing yourself." She shook her head, her voice faint. "I will not let them take you. Daniel, not them, not your own kind." Her words burned into him. Sharper than fire, he slammed the thrusters forward, weaving through the wreckage, mercenary ships crashing against debris, explosions lighting the void. But 2 still chased, faster, closer. The comms hissed again, the mocking voice now sharp with anger. "You fool, Daniel, you could have lived. You could have had everything, but you chose her, and now you will die for her." Daniel's eyes blazed. his grip on the controls unyielding. "Better to die free than live chained," he shouted, pulling the freighter into a desperate spin, diving straight toward the Red Star's burning edge. The mercenaries hesitated, their ships shuddering in the growing heat. Daniel's ship screamed as metal began to glow, Solara's light flowing stronger, holding the ship together. And in that moment, Daniel felt it again, the echo of the chains in his blood, power surging not just through him, but into the ship itself. Engines roaring with strength they should not have. The freighter burst forward, cutting through the fire. The mercenaries falling back, unable to follow, their curses lost in the storm of the dying star. Daniel gasped for breath, the freighter battered but alive. Solara collapsing into the seat beside him, her silver eyes dim but still watching him. "You chose again," she whispered. "You chose not gold, not fear, but loyalty." Daniel looked at her, sweat dripping, his hand still shaking. "And I'll keep choosing," he said, his voice hard. "No matter what it costs." The freighter drifted out of the star's burning reach, scarred but unbroken, carrying two fugitives bound by more than chains, hunted by the galaxy, betrayed by their own. But stronger with every choice, the freighter floated through black space, its hull cracked and scorched. Daniel sat at the controls, sweat on his brow, his eyes burning with exhaustion. Beside him, Solara leaned weakly against the wall, her silver eyes dim, her body trembling from holding the ship together during the escape. For a while there was silence, only the hum of the damaged engines. But Daniel knew peace never lasted. He had seen it in every world. Safety was always a lie waiting to be broken, and soon enough the sensors began to beep again. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "Not again," he muttered, scanning the screen, his heart sinking. More ships, larger this time, forming a net across the stars. Warlord hunters, black hulls sharp as knives, dozens of them moving to cut them off. Solara opened her eyes slowly, her voice soft but steady. "They will not stop, Daniel. The chains are broken, and that truth is more dangerous than any weapon. They will chase us until either we fall or they fall." Daniel slammed his fist on the console. "Then how do we fight dozens of ships? We can't outrun them." "We can't outgun them," Solara stood, her body shaking but her eyes glowing brighter now, silver fire awakening inside them. "We cannot run and we cannot hide, but there is another way." "The way of my people," Daniel turned to her, fear rising in his chest. "You mean your power?" "The thing you've been holding back," she nodded slowly. "I have tried not to use it because it is not a gift. It is a burden every time I touch it. I give away a piece of myself, but if I do nothing, we both die. And the galaxy loses the choice you made." Daniel's jaw tightened. "If it hurts you, then don't. I'll find another way." Solara stepped closer, placing her pale hand on his shoulder, her voice a whisper in his mind. "You are human, Daniel, and your strength is choice. But my strength is sacrifice. Together we may live. Part we are already dead." Before he could stop her, Solara walked to the center of the cabin, her chains gone, yet their memory burning. She raised her arms, her silver eyes blazing, her voice rising in a language Daniel did not understand. The air inside the freighter shook, the lights flickered, and then the stars outside began to bend. The hunters closed in, weapons charged, red bolts flashing, but every shot dissolved before reaching the freighter, swallowed by the silver storm that spread from Solara's body. Space itself trembling as if it feared her. Daniel gripped the controls, his eyes wide. "What are you doing?" he shouted. Solara's voice thundered through the cabin and his mind alike. "I am showing them why they feared us." Her power burst outward, a wave of silver light ripping across the Black Sea. Enemy ships twisted, their hulls bending as if crushed by invisible hands, engines tearing apart, hunters screaming as their weapons shattered, dozens of ships falling silent, broken in seconds, but Daniel saw the cost. Solara's body trembling violently, her pale skin cracking with glowing lines, blood dripping like liquid silver, her breath ragged, her strength draining with every heartbeat. He leapt to her side, holding her as she swayed. "Stop! You're killing yourself," he begged. She smiled faintly, her voice faint but calm. "Do not fear for me, Daniel, fear for them. They thought chains could hold forever. But now they will know nothing lasts forever." Another wave burst from her, stronger, brighter, space itself warping, the last hunters fleeing in terror, their ships vanishing into the dark, unwilling to face the storm, and then silence. The light faded, the stars returned to their calm, the freighter drifting alone once more. But Solara collapsed into Daniel's arms, her body limp, Her glow nearly gone, Daniel lowered her gently to the floor, panic clawing at him. "Stay with me. Don't you dare leave me now," he whispered fiercely. Her silver eyes fluttered open weakly, her voice barely a whisper. "Do you see now, Daniel, why I would not use it? Power is not freedom. It is a chain of its own. Every time I break it, it takes more of me." Daniel's throat burned, his hands shaking as he held her. "Then don't use it again. Not for me." "Not for anyone," she smiled faintly, a fragile curve of her lips. "And yet you would use your life for me." Without hesitation, that is the difference. That is why the chains chose you. Her head rested against his chest, her voice fading but steady. "Remember this, Daniel, I can break ships. But you can break fate." Daniel closed his eyes, his arms tightening around her, anger and grief burning inside him. He had seen her power. He had seen what it cost. And he swore in that moment he would not let her carry the burden alone. The freighter drifted through the stars, scarred but alive, carrying a woman who could bend reality but was breaking herself to do it, and a human who carried the echo of broken chains, ready to face a galaxy that feared them both. And though silence returned, Daniel knew it was only the calm before the storm. Because power always brought enemies and mercy always demanded a price. The freighter floated silent, far from the dying star, its hull scarred, its engines weak. Inside the cabin, Daniel sat with Solara in his arms, her body fragile, her glow faint. She had unleashed power enough to shatter fleets, yet she looked now like a candle about to fade. Daniel's chest tightened, his hands trembling. "Why did you do that?" he whispered. "You almost died." "For me?" Solara opened her silver eyes slowly, her voice soft but sharp. "Not for you alone, Daniel, for what you represent. For what humanity must face," he frowned, his heart pounding. "You keep saying that. Humanity this, humanity that. I'm just one man, I'm no leader." "I didn't ask for any of this," Solara smiled faintly, her lips pale. "That is why you were chosen. Because you did not ask, you did not take, you gave. The chains were not forged to test me. They were forged to test your kind, to see if humanity could choose mercy over greed, courage over fear, sacrifice over power." Daniel shook his head, anger and confusion twisting inside him. "And if I had walked away, if I had left you chained, what then?" Her silver eyes deepened, a shadow passing through them. "Then the galaxy would have known humanity was not ready, and you would have carried that weight, not knowing, but still guilty." Daniel's breath caught, the truth heavy. The choice he had made in that cruel market had not been small. It had been everything. A door opening not just for him, but for his entire species. Before he could speak again, the ship's sensors flared, dozens of signals lighting the screen. Warlord fleets, slaver vessels, even ships of neutral empires, all gathered, their weapons locked, their eyes turned toward the small freighter. Daniel's stomach dropped. "They found us," he muttered. But Solara only shook her head, her voice calm. "No. They were waiting. This is the moment the galaxy watches, not for me. But for you." The comms came alive. Voices from across the stars, harsh and mocking, curious and fearful, human. "Surrender the witch. Show us the chains again. Prove what you are. Are humans saviors or destroyers?" The weight of a galaxy pressed on Daniel's shoulders. He felt his chest tighten, his hands shake. He was one man in an old freighter, yet every empire now demanded an answer. Solara touched his arm, her voice a whisper in his mind. "Do not fear, Daniel. They are not asking for ships or weapons. They are asking for choice. The same choice you made when you broke the chains. Will you take as you wish or will you give?" Daniel stood, facing the comms, his voice raw but steady. "Listen to me," he said. "I am no ruler, I am no warrior. I'm just a wanderer who made a choice. I could have left her chained, I could have sold her. I could have taken what was easy, but I didn't. I chose to see her, to free her, to stand beside her. And if that makes me dangerous to you, then so be it." The galaxy listened, thousands of voices whispering across the comms, the silence heavy. Daniel's voice grew stronger. "You fear humans. You fear what we might become, but hear this. We are not strong because we conquer. We are strong because we choose. We can choose mercy when fear demands cruelty. We can choose loyalty when greed demands betrayal. We can choose to give when all others only take." His words carried across the stars. Even the hunters paused. Even the slavers fell silent. Solara watched him, her silver eyes glowing brighter, her voice soft but proud. "Do you see now, Daniel? Why only a human could free me, not for strength, not for power, but for this. For the truth you just gave them. The fleets hung in the dark, their weapons still aimed, their captains silent. No one moved, but something shifted. Something unseen. Daniel sat back down. His breath heavy. Did it work? He asked quietly. Solara leaned against him, her hand warm despite her weakness. It has begun, she whispered. The chains are broken, not just mine, but those that bound the future. Now humanity's test begins, and the galaxy will watch, some with hope, some with fear. Daniel stared at the endless stars. His heart still pounding, he had not asked to carry such weight. Yet now he did, not just for himself, not just for Solara, but for all of humanity. The freighter moved forward into the unknown, into the storm of eyes watching. Daniel's hand steady on the controls, Solara's silver gaze beside him. Two fugitives no longer running, but walking into history and in the silence of space. The galaxy whispered. The human chose.